Hey friends, today's guests are guitarist and lead vocalist Luke Esterkyn and bassist Greg Gueldner of the Marin County, California rock band Stroke 9. Together, we break down the writing, recording, and inspiration behind the smash hit single Little Black Backpack, taken from their 1999 album Nasty Little Thoughts. I don't recall an episode here on Chris DeMakes a Podcast where everything hinged on one song, and I mean everything. Luke and Greg both mentioned that the track was demoed numerous times over the years, had been a live staple and a hit amongst their fans, was previously recorded for their indie record, and it was this song that got them signed to Universal Records. This certainty that the song was a hit was shared by everyone in the band, managers, fans, and label executives. Getting the final mix back only solidified this overall feeling, and the song went on to become one of the biggest hits in 1999 at rock radio. The guys were both very vocal as to what producer Jerry Harrison brought to the table with his track. And I gotta mention the time signature changes in this song. They're odd, yet work together effortlessly and really give the song its own vibe. So for all this and a whole lot more, stick around.
Hey, have you heard? Chris DeMakes a Podcast. Hey, have you heard? Chris DeMakes a Podcast. Hey, have you heard? Chris DeMakes a Podcast. Hey, have you heard? Chris DeMakes a Podcast.
Well, hey guys, how's it going?
Hi, how are you?
It's going great.
Fantastic. We got Luke and Greg. We're going to get ganged up on here. We're getting a two-fer here on Chris DeMakes a Podcast. So where are each of you guys right now?
I'm in my car in Petaluma, California, which is about a half an hour north of San Francisco. And I'm on my way to meet Greg because we're having an in-person meeting today about some stuff. Where are you, Greg?
I'm in Petaluma as well, so waiting for Luke. Yeah, Luke and I actually have several jobs together. We've worked together. Stroke 9 has been 35 years now, but we worked at a liquor store together. Now we work in tech together, and there's a couple other endeavors that we do as well. So we're constant.
That's like my producer and I can't get away from him. So is the Phoenix Theater still in Petaluma?
We're going to be actually right across that's where the co-working space we're going is basically across the street from the Phoenix. Yeah, it's still there, still kicking.
Right on. Well, a little background for the listeners. These guys, Stroke 9, you formed in 1990. I want to talk a little bit about this. I guess you guys formed due to a rock band class. And I had one of those in my high school, too. It was called Instrumental Techniques. And it's basically where all the delinquents that didn't want to be in history and sociology, they went to kill an hour and you got to play guitar and drums, right?
Yeah. Our high school, we went to high school a little south of here in a town called San Rafael that was allegedly bohemian, but it was more college preppy. But it didn't have like a normal jazz band or orchestra or symphonic band or anything like that. But we had a rock band. And so we all joined it maybe junior year and just did covers, did a lot of classic rock, did Bowie and Zeppelin, and we actually did a Suicidal Tendencies song, which was bizarre. And and out of that, we just, the people who were more into it sort of gravitated to each other. And that was me and Luke and John, our guitar player, and this guy, Steven, who was our original bass player. And once it ended and once high school ended, we're like, let's just keep doing it. And so that's sort of how we fell into Stroke 9. It started in a class, which is funny. We gave him a gold record. Once we got our gold record, we had him put it up in that room.
That's awesome. Well, you guys released 2 independent albums in 93 and 95, and then you got signed to Universal. And take us back to that time period. Did you get signed off the back of any of the songs from the record Nasty Little Thoughts, like Little Black Backpack? Was there a demo for that? I searched, I couldn't find one.
We wrote Little Black Backpack, I think, in 95, and we recorded it many times. The main kind of demo version that you can find online is on our album Bumper to Bumper.
Turn around, he's on his back and don't wanna tango with you. I'd rather tango with him. I wanna smash his fucking head in. And this shouldn't concern you except that
So that was kind of the original version that we recorded, and we recorded that in a very DIY fashion where we were like in a little room and we had a microphone in the room and everybody was sitting on a porch outside of the room, and we were kind of like trying to multi-track it. We rented a couple ADATs, if you remember ADATs back in the day.
Of course. Yep.
And a little tiny little board, and we recorded it, and we made this full length album called Bumper to Bumper. And we were also playing around a lot at the time in San Francisco and up and down California. And, that was kind of the song that every time we played it, people would instantly react to. We were playing to a lot of people who had never seen us, of course, in little clubs and bars and stuff. So that song kind of always had this instant feedback, that we were given as a band. And yeah, go ahead, Greg, take it from there.
Yeah, so we recorded it for Bumper to Bumper, played it a lot, and then we hooked up with a woman named Nadine Condon. Is that her last name? And
Yeah.
She was a BMI rep up in San Francisco, and so she put us on some showcases, and we had some friends at Bill Graham Presents and stuff like that, so we got to sneak on to some really good opening slots. Like, we got to play upstairs at Tom Petty when he did that like 20 night run and stuff. And so then once the record labels started coming around, we lied and we said we sold 500,000 copies of that Bumper to Bumper, that album with the first little black backpack, when we probably sold 200 or something. I mean, it wasn't bad. It was like 500, but it was not 500,000. And so yeah, and then we demoed it again. Then once we got the record label, we went in with a guy named Phil Steer into his studio in San Francisco called Toast, and demoed it again with him. And then, once we got to the album, we probably recorded it, probably like 5 or 6 times, like legitimately.
I'm going to have to go look for that demo because I love listening and comparing and contrasting. Do you recall if there was an evolution with the demos? Did it change lyrically? Did the arrangement change?
It's going way back. The song originally was a different song that was fully, I think, in 4/4. And then it was kicking around, and the chorus might have been the same, but the verse was straight. And then when we got together in like 94 or something like that, Satellite had just come out.
Satellite in my eyes, like a diamond in the sky. How I wonder. Satellite, strong from
Satellite, is in an odd time. Dave Matthews Satellite. And so then that's when the verse went to sort of a 6/8 waltzy feel. And it did that. And then it had this bonkers bridge that is in a like almost double time 4/4, and it has this raging guitar solo and stuff like that. And that's on there's a version of that on our album called
Hidden Treasures.
It goes to this wild 4/4, then it goes back to a slower 4/4. So it had 3 different time signatures and feels in the thing. And with somebody, we worked out that for the bridge guitar solo, we were just going to stay in the chorus 4/4 and not do this kind of proggy, like jammy bridge, which was ridiculous. It was fun to play live, but it didn't work on the album. That was like probably the most significant thing that changed on that song. And I don't remember who we did that with.
Well, a couple other things I wanted to discuss before we jump into the song. The album was produced by Jerry Harrison and Rupert Hine. Jerry is from the Talking Heads. He's produced Live, Crash Test Dummies, no doubt. Rupert Hine's an English producer. He produced everyone from Tina Turner to Rush, Stevie Nicks, The Fix. And, these guys' records speak for themselves, but it almost seems like a little bit of an odd pairing for a late 90s radio rock alternative band. How'd you guys get hooked up with these guys?
The label asked us to kind of like make a dream list of producers. And we were super into like the stuff that Jerry had been doing. We were obviously into the Talking Heads, and then we loved how like that Crash Test Dummies record sounded. And we started listening to other stuff that Jerry had done, like live. And we were just like, sonically, this stuff is killer. And he's also a local guy. He lives in Marin County, where we live in the Bay Area. And so he was kind of like at the top of our list. There were other guys at the top of our list too. I can't remember exactly who they were right now, but anyway, Jerry was like, the label called him, and he was in between projects, and he was like, well, I've got like a few weeks. I'll commit to doing 6 songs with these guys. And he picked the 6 songs that we did with him off of a list of, I think we had about 15 demos or so. There were a few songs that didn't make the record, and then so we needed like another producer to do these other 6 songs, and our A&R person, Jolene Cherry, was friends with Rupert. And she was like, how about this guy, Rupert? He's great. And, once we saw his track record, I'm like, those Fix albums were kind of my favorite albums when I was in maybe like 7th or 8th grade.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so once I saw that, I was like, yeah, let's just do this. And so we went to LA and did 6 songs with Rupert at a place called Royal Tone, which was great.
Had Rupert and Jerry ever worked together before? Because, alone, it's not an odd pairing, but it seemed kind of odd that these two were together working on this project. Had they worked together previously?
I don't believe so, no.
I don't know that they even ever met. I'm trying to. I think there was one time I remember being in the room with both of them, but no, they knew of each other, but I don't think they knew each other. There was no like. I don't think we did anything like, here's what the album's going to sound like, and we're all going to match that sound. I think Jerry went first, and so if you can tell a little bit which song is which, but it all came together well. But there was no like meeting of the producers to sort of be like, this is what the whole album vision is like, or anything like that.
Well, a couple more things. Little Black Backpack peaked at number 6 on the U.S. Modern Rock chart and number 39 on the U.S. Top 40 Mainstream chart. The Nasty Little Thoughts album went platinum, and altogether, you guys have released 8 studio albums, the most recent being Calafrio, which was released in January of 2020. And before we go any further, I just want to ask again, was Jerry more of the main producer in the studio with you guys the whole time, or it kind of seems that way, or was Rupert there when he wasn't there?
Yeah, so we did completely separate sessions. Jerry and Rupert were never together in the studio at the same time. So we did 6 tracks with Jerry, and then Jerry went off and, did something else. And then we went to, and that was in the Bay Area at a studio called The Plant in Sausalito. And then we went down to LA with Rupert and his engineer. And so it was like completely different teams.
Okay. Do you remember who tracked Little Black Backpack, though?
Jerry. And Carl Durfler Jerry and Carl. Carl is his engineer, who's amazing. And so we did Little Black Backpack with Jerry.
Was the song cut to tape or Pro Tools?
It was cut to Pro Tools and tape.
Okay, so you went to tape and then bounced over to do editing in Pro Tools?
Yes.
Okay, because that's right in that time period. It's right on the cusp. My band made a record in 98, and we were one of the first 10 records, I think, that ever used auto-tune. So that's right around that time. But this track's almost 25 years old, and it sounds awesome. You guys should be really proud. I think it sounds amazing and still holds up today.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was full-blown studio action. Like, we chose The Plant, as Luke was saying, which is in Sausalito, very famous old studio where, Fleetwood Mac and Otis Redding sitting on the dock of the bay, and Journey, and everyone's recorded there. Metallica did the Black Album there. And so on our first Bumper to Bumper, which was our independent one we made ourselves, we had a couple buddies who were interns there, and they mixed that album in one of the back studios at night. And so we're like, and we got to, poke around in the main rooms every once in a while. And Luke, didn't you intern there or something like that once, or you had some connection there?
I did. Yeah, I interned there. The best story about interning there was a young girls band called Girls Time recording there. when I was interning there, and I think I was probably, I don't know, 17 or 16. And the main singer of that band was Beyonce Knowles.
Oh, wow.
And so she was in there, yeah, recording with her producer at the time. And she was probably about, I don't know, I feel like she was 8 or 9. And that was a pretty cool thing to witness.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I want to jump into the song now, guys. It's 3 minutes and 43 seconds. And I don't recall, was it Luke or was it Greg that said this song had a 6/8 feel? I said the time signature was in 3/4, but sometimes I get those two confused. And in some instances, people will say it's the same thing, but it's really about feel. But we'll go with 6/8 here. It's an 8-bar intro with a time signature of 6/8. There's this little 3-note guitar by itself, and then the whole band jumps in for 8 bars with drums, bass, stereo guitar, and that guitar that starts the song off is playing an arpeggiated lick. I don't hear any acoustic at the top here, guys. I hear it come in the verse. Is that correct? There's no acoustic?
Yeah, I mean,
That's a great question.
How do you remember? It's been 25 years.
like, is there acoustic underneath the opening guitar line? Is that what we're trying to remember?
Well, just the intro before verse 1 starts. Yeah, because I can definitely hear acoustics in verse 1, but I don't think it's at the top.
Well, I mean, that's sort of what I was getting at before. Is we went for it, So once we got into the plant and we had Jerry and we had Carl and I think we had Larry Craig bringing us acoustic guitars, that late 90s was a really great time to be a signed band. And it was like, well, yeah, of course we need 3 drum sets and we need 10 amps and we need every guitar that we can find in Marin County. Jerry had that really good Martin, right? He had his acoustic that he loved.
Yeah, he had like a vintage Martin that sounded amazing that we kind of put on everything. And I don't know if there's acoustic at the top of the song. I don't think there is.
We're going to go with no, but we're going to say it comes in the verse 1 here. And I got to tell you, this feel that you guys have managed to capture with this song, going from the 6/8, and when it changes to 4/4 on pre-chorus 1, it is so jarring in one sense, if you look at it on paper, but it works so effortlessly. That's tough to do because when you're going between time signatures and you've done something really, really incredible here, it's really cool.
Well, I know it's a shame I can't show it. And I see it, I can see it now, but I'm so far below it. Don't wanna.
Well, I know it. It's a shame I can't show it. And I see it, I can see it now, but I'm so far below it. I think someone's laughing because you've probably never had your lyrics read to you before.
It's very uncomfortable.
I'm the king of uncomfortable. Yeah. What's happening here lyrically? What are we saying?
This song came about in a very random way. We had the concept for these Little Black Backpack was what came up sort of we were jamming one day and it was just a joke. I think I sang it. We had been in San Francisco out at bars, and that was when like every woman was wearing a little black backpack. And I think we were just sort of hanging in the studio jamming. And I think I just said it and the guys were like, oh, that's funny. Like we should write a song about a little black backpack. And so it just sort of came about in this random way. And to be honest with you, like, I don't really know what the sort of main theme of this song is. It feels like it's something about striving and feeling less than. And I think maybe it's seeing kind of all of these people who are really fashion oriented and really trendy and really trying to like be something out on the scene in San Francisco. And maybe it's just kind of stemmed from that. And so I think that's kind of what I'm saying in that first verse.
That's really cool that you admitted what you just admitted to. Very few people, myself included, I've had people ask me about songs and I'll just kind of make up something because I don't want to sound stupid. You're probably one of the first people that's ever said what you just said on the show. And I've done over 150 whatever episodes now. Just saying, yeah, they're just some words I wrote and I think they kind of mean this, but I really don't know. That's awesome.
Well, thanks. I think that that's kind of a lot of our songs are like that. Maybe I don't really think about themes and stuff as I'm writing. They just kind of come out, and then if they feel like they work, then they work, and maybe it means something to somebody. But and that might be also why like our music hasn't connected, you know, as widely as some other songwriters' music has.
Well, I mean, that what you just said is a whole nother episode we could get into because we could never predict that. That's just, you know, the fact that, and I've said this to other guys too. It's like, you know, you guys had a hit at radio. That's amazing. You know, most bands don't ever get to have that hit, and it can be a blessing and a curse depending on how you look at it. But verse 1 here, I love the first harmony we hear in the song, and I see it. That harmony is awesome. It's nice and loud. It's right there. And before we got rolling, I was talking to Luke, you know, because I research these episodes pretty well. I go and look at live performances of the song. And in the early days, guitarist John McDermott did not sing the backing vocals, and I was disappointed because the backing vocals are so killer in the song. And I went and looked at some videos later on, and John sings now. Was that something that evolved, or he got better as a singer?
Yeah, I think John historically you know, he's a great musician. He has a great ear. I think he just wasn't super comfortable singing at the beginning. And then he and I worked quite a bit on harmonies and stuff as we started to tour more and more, and really he put a lot of effort and time into it. And now he's a great singer. I mean, he can hit anything, and he definitely worked hard on that.
That's awesome. I've seen a number of bands over the years. They'll have these awesome harmonies. You go see them live, and it's just it's kind of lacking and missing. I'm glad he's singing now, because especially for this track, there's so many cool harmonies. Love that harmony in verse 1. The drums, bass, and a slightly overdriven guitar panned left are here in the first verse, and an acoustic guitar is there as well. And is there an electric guitar that's ghosting with the acoustic? I can't tell if that's a slap echo or something on there. Do you guys remember?
I think we need to go find the tape with the track listings on. Like, they're in
Exactly.
storage somewhat. No, we don't have them. We have something. We might have the track list.
And as you guys said, you guys were you know, playing with all kinds of toys there at the plant, and you were just having a ball. So there very well could be an electric guitar there. It sounds like it. The last line here, but I'm so far below it. The band stops completely with the instruments ringing out, and that's when it changes to 4/4. How did that evolution come about? You know, you had mentioned that this is one of the songs that you were playing out live, and of course it was on a previous record. You were seeing this audience reaction, and you know, when you got an audience grooving and an audience dancing, okay, and this is definitely danceable. The top of this song, it's got a groove and through the first verse, but when you get to the pre-chorus and it changes, the fact that it still all works together. How did that time change come about? Was it all in 4/4 or all in 6/8 at one point?
Probably out of necessity, right? So we knew we liked the verse, we knew we liked the chorus. And it's funny, we had another song on our next album that's called Kick Some Ass that also changes. It goes from 5/7 to 4/4, and it's even harder live. And like anyone who plays it, especially on drums for the first time, it's like, wait, how do you do this? But Backpack's nice because it takes that big pause. And certainly when we did it live, and when we still do it live, it's long, you know, and there's crowd work, and it leaves itself wide open for a little bit of some hooting and hollering and some shots, possibly, if that's a moment where you need to take a sip of beer and get ready for the chorus.
Yeah.
So it just worked out, and it's a drama moment, and you just wait. And it's nice for the band when we play it live because you have the vocal cue, like, you know, it leads it in, so we can all hit that one really hard. And so yeah, it's that little bit of drama that definitely came about more and more from just playing it for the, you know, 5-6 years.
Right, and you need the pre-chorus in order to get to the chorus. There's no other way. Because you had mentioned you love the feel of the verse, you love the feel of the chorus. How do we get there? And this part is so strange. It never sounded strange to me. This time signature of this song, I've heard it a ton. You still hear it on radio, grocery stores. I hear the song all the time, and until I got it under the microscope here, and I'm going, wow. That's an abrupt switch. That's really crazy, but it works seamlessly. We changed to 4/4 here for pre-chorus 1.
Don't wanna talk about it. I say why not? Don't wanna think about it. I say there's got to be some good reason for your little black backpack. Up smack, turn around, he's on his back and
Don't want to talk about it. I say why not? Don't want to think about it. I say there's got to be some good reason for your little black backpack. Up, smack, turn around, he's on his back, and.
The and really sells it. It's the and that's the hook.
I do like the and there. Again, that's something that's kind of odd, but I like it.
Hearing it like that, because Luke does the falsetto, which I don't know, is that deliberately supposed to be imitating the female voice in the narrative? But it doesn't say consistent, does it?
That's funny you bring that up, because that's a question I have written down here. Is that from the female narrative?
It is. Yeah. I mean, it definitely was. And that part was intended to sound like a female voice and be part of the female narrative. And I don't even really remember now why, but I guess there's a conversation happening there, or maybe it's switching voices. I'd have to think back as to why we did that, but I do recall going to falsetto and making it kind of sound like a female voice intentionally.
Well, the falsetto part, it happens a number of times in this song. It's a hook. Every time this pre-chorus comes around, it is a hook. I've said this before. It's a hook within the song. It's something that without it wouldn't be the same tune. The vocals come in alone as we change times here. Don't want to. That's a vocal alone. And as we get into it, the lyric on the second line, I say why not, that's falsetto. And I say there's also falsetto there. And we get a harmony on the last line, turn around, he's on his back and I'd almost make the argument here, guys, that the back half of this pre-chorus, when everything starts to ramp up, the bass kick drum come in on the line, I say there's got to be some good reason. The back half here, you get the lyric, little black backpack, the title of the song. It's almost like the chorus starts before the actual chorus does, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Illusion.
Well, kind of, yeah, because it gets heavy here, and I think that the way you there's some angst on that little black backpack, the way that it's sung, and it just really launches this chorus perfectly. There's a build up on the floor tom, kick and snare on the last line to launch into chorus 1.
turn around, he's on his back and don't wanna tangle with you. I'd rather tangle with him. I think I'm gonna bash his head in. And this shouldn't concern you, except that just don't expect to get your bloody black back.
Don't want to tangle with you. I'd rather tangle with him. I think I'm going to bash his head in. That's great. And this shouldn't concern you, except that just don't expect to get your bloody black backpack back. I had to slow down on that last line. It's like those little tongue twisters you used to hear as a kid. It's hard to say.
There was always question about what this chorus is really saying. Is it a guy taking the backpack? I mean, the obvious sort of thing is there's a relationship here. There's a jealous boyfriend takes the backpack from the girlfriend, beats up some guy with the backpack, gives it back, or doesn't give it back, I guess in this case. But then there was always the sort of the British, like, are you saying bloody black backpack, like bloody hell, or is it literally a bloody backpack covered in blood? And so that was always one thing that people kind of sunk their brains into, I guess, when they're trying to kind of analyze the song and figure out what it's about.
That's really interesting you say that, because I didn't even think about that till now. If you guys were British, I would have for sure thought it was, bloody, like bloody hell. In this instance, like, backpacks, especially women have makeup and, I don't know, glass, hard things in their purse that it could be bloody if you smack someone with it.
When I think about it, at that time, so this was mid 90s, there weren't cell phones yet. And so there was just this constant joke of like, well, what are these things are too small for a book. I don't know, what do you keep in a backpack normally? And so, yeah, it's like, what is it? And they were just, people were making fun of them. They were a joke that everyone did. And I think we just speculated like, well, what if you used it to beat up some other paramour or whatever? In a bar scene, like romantic triangle, maybe that's what they're for. That's what I always think about. It's just a funny little scene. You can see it, and like that's how I've always interpreted it personally when I think about it. Like I can visualize the small vignette of the whole thing.
Hey everybody, don't go anywhere. We got lots more with Luke and Greg from Stroke 9 after a few words from our sponsors.
The number you have reached is 100.7 WMMS.
It wasn't just a radio station, it was a lifestyle.
Cleveland is a rock and roll city for sure.
Yeah! Down! The Wrath of the Buzzard. WMMS. Cleveland.
The rise and fall of one of the most iconic radio stations in America. Profiles, The Wrath of the Buzzard, PROH Files. Subscribe now wherever you get podcasts.
And now, back to the show.
And Luke, did you sing all the backup vocals on this, on the harmonies?
I did, yeah.
Okay. Well, again, I love the harmonies. I love where you went with them here. And did Jerry push you on the harmonies? Did you have this all worked out in your head? I know there was another version that I have not heard yet, and I'm definitely going to take a listen to that. But were the harmonies the same, or did he push you when he had you in there? Do you recall?
We worked the harmonies quite a bit. I definitely I remember spending a lot of time like in another little studio with I think mainly Carl, who was the engineer, and just like trying lots of different harmony ideas until we got the ones that we liked. So I don't think those harmonies were locked from the previous version. I think I probably had ideas, but if you go and compare them, they might be different. I'd have to listen again myself, actually.
I love, though, how the song builds. The harmonies are pretty sparse here in chorus one. We get Don't Want to Tango With You, a harmony on that line. I think I'm going to bash his head in. We get a harmony there, and we get a harmony on Just Don't Expect to Get. Later in the song, the chorus, too, is every line's a harmony on it. But I like how it's used sparsely here so the song could build later on. At the last lyric here, your bloody black backpack back, the band stops. Everything rings out as we get that 3-note guitar riff from the intro to take us back into that 3, 4, or 6/8 time signature with an 8-bar reintro. Again, this part's kind of jarring, how it just kind of comes back in, but you fall back into verse 2, and somehow you made it work.
Yes, I can. What about that don't you understand? And I sense you. It's something sensual, but it's less than I planned. Don't wanna.
Now I'm curious to go back and see what we have in the way of demos, if we always had those long intros, or if we started vocals more, because playing it live, and especially later once it started to get a little more popular, people have a lot of fun on the chorus, and it is, I would argue it's not quite a dance song as much as a jump up and down bounce song, which is a certain type of dancing. But, there's always a little bit of a calm down moment after every chorus. And that, I assume that happened while we were live. And then before the lyrics, you just need another moment to sort of reset before the second verse. So yeah, that's why that's probably that little pause there. And it's just, again, a nice little break.
Yeah, and I think it's also amazing in the sense that the song worked ultimately when you got it in the studio. Because I can attest, there's songs on my band's first record. Our first record was basically a demo. We were kids, where I go back and it's just all over the place time-wise because nothing was to a click, and that's how we were playing the songs live. Parts would just stop and go into another time, into another feel out. It was kind of breakneck, and a lot of times when you go into the studio to record a track that you've been doing that with live, you can't recreate it. It's too weird and it doesn't work. And obviously it worked here brilliantly. So right out of that 8-bar reintro, we get into verse 2, time signature changes. I'm going to read these lyrics and we'll break them down. I can feel you. Yes, I can. What about that? Don't you understand? And I sent you. It's something sensual, but it's less than I planned. Very poetic.
It's beautiful. I think one thing hearing you read them back is something we did a lot back then, or Luke did, or whatever, was a lot more alliteration and wordplay. So, what was it? Sensual to, what's the other word you do there?
Sensu, sensual.
Yeah, and tango and tangle.
Well, and bloody black backpack back. I mean, the B alliteration there is just, it's kind of a no-brainer.
We had a song on the album, our self-released one, that was called Refrigerator. That had a lot of clever wordplay, and even like other songs had nasty little thoughts. So it was definitely something that you were doing more lyrically. It's just funny to hear them not screamed in my ear.
You guys aren't the first people that just trip out because I've never had my lyrics read back to me until my producer had me on for an episode of my own show, and it was definitely trippy. It's like, whoa, this is so strange because you don't think about them like that. You just never have them spoken to you. But we get harmonies here in verse 2 on What About That? Don't you understand? And it's less than I planned. The band stops again at the end here. The instruments ring out as the time signature switches back to 4/4.
Don't wanna talk about it. I say why not? Don't wanna think about it. I say there's got to be some good reason for your little black backpack. Up smack, turn around, he's on his backhand. Don't wanna tango.
Was there any talk here at pre-chorus 2 or switching up the lyrics? A lot of times we'll want to differentiate here, bring in more information, or was that pre-chorus always the same lyrically?
I don't think we ever talked about doing that in this song because that was such a strong part. I mean, we might have experimented with it. I don't recall doing that. We usually do. We usually do try to have some variety in pre-choruses, but I think for this one, it just was like, it was what it was.
Yeah, and I think too, with the chorus here, there's a lot of information happening. It's not that you're repeating one line over and over in the chorus. So there is a lot of information coming at you here. And
well, I think you also have to realize, this was mid to late 90s. This was .com bubble 1. And our fans were so drunk that we didn't want to burden them with learning a whole nother set of lyrics. Like, we really just wanted them by the end of the song to be able to sing the whole song, the whole chorus all the way through.
And sometimes as performers, we like to get heady, and artsy. So we'll be like, yeah, I'm going to change the third pre-chorus. And then you go play live and you look out and they're mouthing the words to the first pre-chorus. You're like, why did I do that?
Exactly.
So, yep. I totally get that. Well, chorus 2, it's the same lyric and instrumentation as chorus 1, except we get a harmony on I'd Rather Tangle With Him. We get a harmony on the line, and This Shouldn't Concern. We get a harmony on You Expect That on the back half, and the whole last line, Your Bloody Black Backpack Back. We get a harmony there that's not on chorus 1.
Up smack, turn around, he's on his backhand. Don't wanna tangle with you, I'd rather tangle with him. I think I'm gonna bash his head in. And this shouldn't concern you except that. Just don't expect to get your bloody black backpack back.
And then we get into what I feel is, I think this is my favorite part of the song. The whole song's catchy from start to finish, but this bridge is awesome.
You're trying to find a reason for the way you feel tonight.
You're trying to find a reason for the way you feel tonight. Your mind is lined with layers of lead. Have you heard one thing that I've said? There's harmonies on each of these lines. The harmony on the word tonight is awesome. That note that you go to there, Luke, is killer. The guitar solo is really cool here too, because it actually starts on the back half of line 2. Your mind is lined with layers of lead. And then on the last line, the guitar solo goes on for an extra 8 bars. And there's some really cool dissonant bends and notes here in this solo. It's barely panned off to the right. And was this guitar solo the same that was there prior, or is this something new for this recording?
This was new. This solo, John's like a shredder. He can play. He's a really good guitar player. He's really creative, and he's really good at improvising. And he just came up with this one in the studio. I'm sure he did a bunch of takes, and we probably comped it together, and that's how we got to this final version. But it turned out great. It really lifts when you hear it.
It does lift, and I love when we come back to pre-chorus 3, the next part, because everything dips down here. It's a light ride cymbal and a light tom work on the drums. Stereo guitars are playing 8th notes here, so kind of takes on a little different feel we haven't heard in the song up to this point.
Don't wanna talk about it. I say why not? Don't wanna think about it. I say there's got to be some good reason for your little black backpack. Up smack, turn around, he's on his back and don't wanna tango.
These guitars are not as big as the stereo guitars in the choruses. That's why these are great, in my opinion. You get the drum build up here at the end, like pre-chorus 1 and pre-chorus 2, but the stereo guitars sound really big when chorus 3 hits. We get the same falsetto here. Again, I'm calling that a really big hook in this song. It's not the same song to me without it. You get that great harmony. Turn around, he's on his back, and to lift us into chorus 3, which is a double chorus.
He's on his back and don't wanna tangle with you. I'd rather tangle with him. I think I'm gonna bash his head in. And this shouldn't concern you except that. Just don't expect to get your bloody black back. Don't wanna tangle with you. I'd rather tangle with him. I think I'm gonna bash his head in. This shouldn't concern you except that. Don't expect to get your bloody black back.
We get the same lyrics the first time. The second time around, on I'd Rather Tangle With Him, the lead vocal goes up an octave. There's no harmony, but the lead vocal here sounds doubled. Halfway through, there's like this and another guitar lead overdub, panned off slight right. It's a really cool moving part that comes in. And then at the very end, the whole band slows down for your bloody black backpack back, and all the instruments fade out. And you really needed this double chorus here at the end to me. It had to be doubled. Was it always like that?
Yeah, I think I have to go listen to bumper to bumper. But yeah, and wait, do we do the stop on the album too? We do the stop, right? Halfway through the second chorus, or we don't? Is that something we only do live now?
No, there's no stop.
Sorry, I clearly haven't listened to Backpack recently recorded. Actually, that's not true, because it's always on. I mean, everywhere I go, like, malls, shopping centers. Yeah, I think it's always been the double chorus for sure. I think we've always absolutely done that because we take it over the top. Yeah, and I remember there's that one guitar that goes really high there at the end. I distinctly remember that was my idea, I think. And I sold Jerry on it. And then Jerry is a big fan of like one note droney, like things like that. I think Jerry actually played it. I think we let Jerry play that one. But yeah, like I said, when we do it live, we do a big pause, a big stop, like right on, what word do we stop on?
Bloody.
Oh, just, at the end of the first repeat. Yeah.
A lot of times when artists, and I've heard this before, and I know this, I've just heard it a bunch that they have this song and they maybe been playing it live. Maybe they released it on an earlier album like you guys have. And the record gets made and then the label or whoever, they go to pick a single and it isn't the song that they thought. You know, for some reason, some other, cream rose to the top and it's like everyone's got their eyes on this single. When the album was done, I noticed the song is track 3 out of the 12 songs on the album, and usually the singles are front loaded, the first 3 or 4 songs. Was it obvious to everybody, your A&R person, to Jerry, to Rupert, to the guys in the band, that this was the single?
Oh yeah. I mean, we got signed because of that song. Like, that was the whole thing from the first time we recorded it, to playing it, to all the getting our lawyer, getting the record deal, everything like that. It was all Backpack, which is crazy. So yes, it was always going to be, I can't imagine maybe there was some cockamamie like, well, we'll warm up the crowd with a strong single as well, and then we'll hit them with the big one. But no, that didn't get very far. If that conversation did happen, I don't recall.
That's interesting. You guys put all your cards on this song, and it worked out. And like I said, sometimes you just don't see that. That's really awesome.
I have a pretty vivid picture in my mind of back then when you did mixes. Well, you would have to do like an ISDN line from whoever was mixing the song, and everybody would go into the studio to hear, because there were, you could only do ISDN like in certain studios. And so Tom Lord Alge was the guy who mixed this song, and he's like a really massive mixing engineer even today, but he was probably the premier mixing engineer for like the 90s rock, late 90s rock sound that everybody kind of learned to love, especially his drum sounds.
Him and his brother mixed Less Than Jake records. They mixed everybody. They had like a monopoly on the market, I think.
Tom and Chris, and they both like had this crazy fee structure where, they would charge you obviously for their time to mix the song, and then they would also get points on every song they mixed. And so they have this like back end mailbox money thing that's probably, I mean, I can't even imagine how much money they've made over the years and with their catalog. But anyway, so I have this very vivid memory of standing in the studio. We were at the plant. Tom was, wherever he is in South Beach in Florida. And he was like, all right, here it comes. And he pushes play, and it like, you hear it over, the mains in a recording studio, like the plant. And they have these incredible speakers and sound systems, of course. And it was just like, wow, we were completely floored. And then once we sent that down to Daniela and Jolene, who are our A&R people at Universal, they were beside themselves. Like, they could not believe how it turned out. They were so happy. They were like, "This is a hit. We're going." To answer your question, yes, that was like the first song we recorded, the first song we got mixed, and they were just like, "All right, it's on," kind of thing. And so yes, that was our first single. Yeah.
That's so great. And like I said, and I've said this before, and I've had fans of mine. Actually, I went on a tour recently with my band, and they're like, yeah, listen to your show and you can kind of put yourself down. I just tell my fans like it is. I've always been straight up. Like, my band's never had a hit. We haven't. We've had a great career. We play to people all over the world. I'm totally stoked. I love it. But man, there's not many bands. There's only so many spots at radio. There's only so many spots you can give out. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. The funny thing about Backpack too is like, people will be like, Stroke 9 sucks. Like, everyone sucks and everyone says that every band sucks. And then they'll always be like, but Backpack was pretty cool. Like, Backpack's a really good song. I mean, you guys suck. Don't get me wrong. You're a terrible band, but Backpack is a great song. And it's like, all right, yeah, that's cool. I agree. Thank you.
It's like our really slow song my band has. It's like people come to like, my mom doesn't like your music, but she loves that one song. It's like, thanks. Okay. I'll take it. Well, listen, I want to thank both of you for sitting in with us today and giving us your time. And before we break, is there anything you'd like to leave everyone listening at home with? What you got coming up?
We are not dead yet. So yes, we are still a band. We still play mainly around where we live here in Northern California. We are still continuously putting out music. And so, not a ton of fanfare, but we have put out in the last 2.5 years, we put out probably 20 new songs or something like that. And so cruise by our Spotify profile one day and see if anything works out for you. Luke, do you have anything else to add about the current state of Stroke 9?
Less Than Jake rocks. Love Less Than Jake. So thank you, Chris.
Just a sensitive artist.
Hey everybody, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Greg and Luke from Stroke 9. But don't go anywhere, we got lots more coming up, like the band you might not know and our rap segment after a few words from our sponsors.
Hi, this is Paul Phelps.
And this is Monica Strutt.
And we're from the Daily Music Business Podcast. We're joined by a number of other really great hosts in creating daily content with great advice for independent musicians just like you.
That's right. We put out episodes daily on all topics from music marketing to branding, advice on signing with a manager and label, and anything else you need to up-level the business side of your music career. We've got it covered.
Subscribe to the Daily Music Business Podcast today on your favorite podcast catcher.
Subscribe today to the Daily Music Business Podcast on your favorite podcast platform.
Hey, Chris O'Falley is here. You know, the producer of the podcast that you're listening to right now. Did you know that I also host a music podcast? It's called One Hit Thunder, and it's a weekly show all about one-hit wonders. We have great guests, and we discuss one-hit wonder artist each week. Some of the songs are great, some of them are terrible, but either way, the show is always pretty freaking good. I know, I'm biased because I host it, but seriously, go subscribe to One Hit Thunder right now. I promise you'll like it.
As we near the end of the show, here's a band you might not know.
Welcome to this week's Band You Might Not Know. If you'd like your band to be considered for Chris DeMakes a Podcast, all you have to do is email your best song via MP3 only and a short bio to bandyoumighttnotknow@gmail.com. This week's featured artist is Respite, a female-fronted band out of Riverside, California. All of the members of the band are currently in high school, and they started learning their instruments and forming the band during the COVID-19 lockdown. Pretty cool. They've been playing shows all over Southern California, and they have influences from punk to ska, metal, and classic rock. Here's a snippet of their song, Punk Invasion.
The boys bring us to their rooms. That consent. Call your friends and say, we want that for that. Call the punks and say, we want things to change. Punch them to the ground and kick their face and rope so like that. Punk invasion. Punk invasion. Punk invasion. Punk invasion. Punk invasion. The punks bust in with
The Rap with Chris and Chris.
So, Chris, it is a real feat to be able to switch time signatures in a song, make it sound effortless, and on top of that, have it turn into a hit song. That's a real feat.
I'm just shocked. I'm amazed by it. Again, I know there's other songs that are like this that I've heard. I can't off the top of my head think of them right now. Until I got this song under the microscope and really analyzed it, I had no idea. It's jarring. It shouldn't work, but it does. I've never done that. I've never switched time signatures in a song. I wouldn't know how to go about that. It'd be so foreign to me.
I was going to be the first thing I was going to ask you. Is Les and Jake ever switch time signatures in a song? And I don't remember that happening. Punchline has definitely done it a lot, but none of them have been hits. You know, we do it. We like to be wild and crazy with the time signatures sometimes, but they definitely weren't hit songs. It's interesting, Chris, also, this song features parts from the female perspective, which kind of reminds me of a past Chris DeMakes a Podcast episode. Yes, I'm talking about, you're nodding your head, Teenage Dirtbag also does that, which I think is pretty neat.
I almost said something during the episode. That's the exact thing I thought, which I believe Teenage Dirtbag, was it 2000?
Yeah, it was after.
Was it 99?
It was after this song, yeah.
Okay, but right around the same time, which kind of was interesting, same time period, modern rock radio, and you had that same kind of trick happen. Pretty cool.
Yeah, and this was a case where the song was kind of the guiding force of everything. We've had episodes before where it was like, we didn't know which song was going to be the single. Well, this was the song that got the band signed. They knew this was the song. That's pretty cool to have like that guiding light the whole time. You know?
Oh, yeah. They pushed all their chips to the front of the table. They were like, this is it. I mean, they demoed this song a ton. They had played it out and road tested it live. They then had it on a previous record. They go and record it the whole time. It's like, this is still the song. This is still the song. And I've heard that before. I even mentioned it to the guys. I've heard that being the case. And then they go make the record and the song just kind of ends up, more towards the bottom of everybody's favorite.
Yeah, but not in this case, man. This song did become a hit. The album went platinum. It's a pretty incredible story. Also, I like the part. I always like hearing this part because I always like this in my experience, and I'm sure you have too, Chris, of hearing the mix back and being like, oh my God, being blown away by it. Everyone knowing it's a hit, from the A&R people to the band themselves. That's a really exciting moment. I mean, I've been excited just about my song sounding awesome. Not that they were going to necessarily be a hit, but to know that you have all the right pieces on the right label to have that chance at having a hit, and it was.
Well, and again, a ton of bands were getting their records mixed by Tom Lord-Alge, one of the best in the business, him and his brother. But not all of them were hits. And I've talked to Tom about this. I've said, do you know when a song's a hit when you're mixing it? And he said, sometimes. He says, sometimes I'm surprised. Sometimes I don't even know what is going to connect with the public and resonate. But other times it's just hit me over the head. It's like, yeah, this is obviously a hit, and that's what they felt that they had here. I love how they gave it to their A&R. I think they had two women representing them as their A&R person, and they loved it. Like, it's a hit. They're freaking out. Something I don't remember is getting a line in the studio and this would have been dial-up, to convert the audio back then so that you could hear it. So Tom's down in Miami. They're out in San Francisco hearing the mix. We were still FedExing cassettes. Okay, overnighting cassettes at that point from California to get the mixes. So I thought that was interesting. I don't remember bands doing it, but evidently they did.
And Chris, one more thing I want to talk about with this song. You brought it up to him that little black backpack back is kind of like a tongue twister.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of what makes this song a hit. That's fun to sing. It's fun to say. We actually did an episode of One Hit Thunder about this song where our guest was John Hampson from 9's, who's friends with Stroke 9, and they've toured together and stuff. But we talked about that on there too, that the fact that is so fun to say and so fun to sing is part of this song's appeal. I mean, to me, it is for sure. It's that imagery of like, I never thought of that bloody, what they were talking about, bloody in the English use of it versus the bloody of having blood on you. I always just pictured it being violence, for lack of a better term. But yeah, I think that the tongue twister aspect of the song is part of what made it a hit too.
Shelley sells seashells by the seashore. Yeah, I mean, it's just, and that he might have had a hard time in front of the mic singing that line. I might have had to do it a couple times. It's definitely is a tongue twister, but something that's not a tongue twister, Chris, is chrisdemakes.com. If you go there, you can sign up and you can get episodes of the After Party where we talk about a little bit of everything. And then for the price of a cup of coffee a month, you can help Chris and I support the show that you listen to and love each week. chrisdemakes.com. Please check it out and give us some help.
I think you're getting a little tongue twisted there. I think explaining the After Party is twisting your tongue a little bit. But yes, chrisdemakes.com is where you can go to join our supporting cast, help out the podcast, help us continue making the show, and get a bonus episode every week. We'd really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And please give me a follow on Instagram at Less Than Christy. Want to thank this week's guests. Yes, plural guests, Luke Esterkyn and Greg Gueldner. And we'll see you next week.
The number you have reached is 100.7 WMMS.
It wasn't just a radio station, it was a lifestyle.
Cleveland is a rock and roll city for sure.
Get down! The Wrath of the Buzzard. WMMS. Cleveland.
The rise and fall of one of the most iconic radio stations in America. Profiles, The Wrath of the Buzzard. PROH Files. Subscribe now wherever you get podcasts.
Hey, what's up? My name's Lurk, and I'm the host of Lamb Goat's Van Flip podcast. Every week, I have in-depth conversations with bands from all over the scene, big and small. We also like to keep our finger on the pulse and showcase up-and-coming bands on the show as well. So come check out Lamb Goat's Van Flip podcast.